From the moment the sun rose over the glass windows of Hawthorne Tech Center, the world already seemed determined to break Elias Moreno. A single dad, a janitor, and a man who moved through life with quiet endurance, Elias walked the polished hallways pushing his cleaning cart while employees brushed past him as if he were invisible. But on one particular day, under the bright morning daylight that flooded the corporate atrium, he would discover that even people who looked down on him could be humbled in ways they never imagined. And the moment the challenge was thrown at him, the moment someone laughed and said, "Translate this and my salary is yours," everything in the room froze. Because they were about to learn who Elias truly was. And what he carried inside him. Right arrow if you believe kindness and second chances matter, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness. It truly helps us continue telling stories like this. Elias had not always been a janitor. Life had been gentler once, though the days felt distant now. He had once worked at a quiet language institute overseas where he spent long hours in warm daylight-filled classrooms helping students navigate the world of words. He spoke 6 languages because they made him feel connected to people in a way life rarely allowed. But when his wife, Nora, fell sick, everything else stopped mattering. He sold their shared dreams, left his respected position, and returned home so he could take care of her full-time. When she passed away just 2 years later, he was left with a 5-year-old daughter, Marisol, and more debt than comfort. Hopes came and went, but nothing stable survived the tidal wave of bills. Eventually, he landed work at Hawthorne Tech as a janitor, a job no one respected but one he clung to because it allowed him to feed his daughter. Every sunrise he walked into the massive building and reminded himself that no job was beneath a father trying to raise a child. It was always daytime when his shift began, and the halls always looked the same: smooth floors, cold steel, endless offices filled with people who barely knew his name. But Elias carried dignity in the way he moved. The mop in his hand did not shame him. The responsibility on his shoulders was heavier than any quiet judgment thrown his way. So many employees smiled kindly at him, some nodded respectfully, and some, even if rarely, treated him as a human being. But then there were others who treated him like scenery, furniture, or background noise. Nobody embodied that attitude more than the intern group assigned to the innovation department upstairs. The interns were loud, competitive, and eager to show off. Among them was one who stood out for the wrong reasons, a tall 23-year-old named Crispin Dwyer. Slick hair, expensive sneakers, and the kind of confidence that had more arrogance than substance, Crispin often tossed paper cups onto the floor instead of into the trash can just to watch Elias pick them up. He joked to others that the janitor probably didn't even understand English fully, despite Elias speaking it better than most. Crispin cared more about showing off than learning anything meaningful. His behavior didn't bother Elias at first. Arrogant people had always existed, and Elias had learned long ago that reacting to them only fed their satisfaction. But one late morning, under the bright white office lights, things changed. Elias was cleaning the conference room in the innovation department. Sunlight painted long rectangles across the floor from the tall windows, and the air hummed with chatter as interns prepared for a presentation they feared would determine their future at the company. Crispin walked in with 2 other interns, one carrying a stack of portfolio folders and the other typing anxiously on a laptop. Crispin was complaining loudly about a document written in Japanese, something the team had been asked to understand by lunchtime. They couldn't translate it, and panic was rising. Then Crispin spotted Elias. He smirked, turned to his group, and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "Watch this." He approached Elias with a printed sheet full of complex Japanese text. Holding it between 2 fingers, he waved it mockingly and said that if the janitor could translate it on the spot, he could take Crispin's salary for the month. A few interns snickered. A few pretended not to listen but leaned in anyway. Elias paused, looked at the paper, then at Crispin, and noticed that something deeper than mockery lived behind the young man's eyes: fear. Fear of failing. Fear of embarrassment. But also the brittle pride of someone terrified of being outshined. Elias took the paper calmly, scanned it for only a moment, and translated every line into clear English. The room fell completely silent. The daylight outside seemed to brighten as if emphasizing the shock on every face. Crispin blinked rapidly, unsure if he had misheard. The others stared wide-eyed, mouths slightly parted. Elias spoke with quiet confidence, delivering the translation with equal measures of accuracy and humility. He ended by gently handing the paper back. Crispin turned red, then pale, then red again. The office felt frozen. The stunned silence lasted longer than anyone expected. That moment should have been the end of it, but it was only the spark. Word spread in the department about the janitor who could translate complex technical documents better than most researchers. It reached supervisors, then managers, then eventually the department head, Dr. Isolde Rennick, a calm woman in her 40s known for treating everyone with respect. She called Elias into her office, something that made him nervous enough to rehearse explanations in his mind about how he had not meant to disrupt anything. But when he entered her office, the atmosphere was different. Warm, curious, and illuminated by daylight filtering through sheer curtains, the room felt welcoming. Dr. Rennick asked about his background, his previous work, his language skills. Elias answered honestly, never exaggerating. His voice trembled slightly whenever he mentioned Nora because the memories still lived just beneath the surface. She listened closely, her eyes softening more with each detail. By the end of the conversation, she told him there were opportunities available, roles that matched his expertise rather than his current uniform. But she needed time to propose the idea to upper management. She thanked him for his humility. She said the story of the challenge had inspired her to reconsider how much potential might be hidden where people least expected. Over the next few days, things shifted in ways Elias didn't anticipate. Some employees treated him with new respect, some apologized for ignoring him in the past, and some simply stared at him as if he had become a walking mystery. Crispin avoided eye contact entirely, but guilt eventually pushed him to mumble a quiet apology one afternoon. Elias nodded, offering forgiveness without hesitation. It believed everyone deserved a chance to grow, even those who only realized their mistakes after humiliation. Meanwhile, Marisol noticed her father seemed lighter at home. Every afternoon when he picked her up from school in the bright daytime, she asked what made him smile so much lately. Elias simply told her that sometimes even adults learn lessons at unexpected moments. She didn't understand fully, but she hugged him tighter anyway, her small arms wrapping around him with the fierce trust only children possess. Those hugs were the anchor that kept him grounded. A week later, Dr. Rennick called for an emergency meeting in the innovation department. The department had just partnered with an international client requiring multilingual communication, and they needed someone capable of supporting across languages. An HR representative stood beside her as she announced that they were creating a new position, multilingual communication specialist. Everyone expected them to bring in an outside hire, but then she called Elias forward. The room erupted with whispers, widened eyes, stunned expressions. Sunlight poured across Elias as he walked to the front, his heart beat loud enough that he could feel it in his throat. The HR representative explained that Elias would be stepping into the new role effective immediately. The room clapped, some with genuine admiration, some in disbelief, some with newfound respect. Crispin clapped too, though his expression carried remorse. Elias met his eyes and offered a small nod, not of superiority, but of encouragement. Crispin swallowed hard and nodded back, learning humility that would shape him long after. Elias received his new badge, his new office, and his new responsibilities all in one day. But what mattered most was not the salary increase, the title, or the admiration, it was the feeling that Nora, somewhere beyond the world he understood, would have been proud. When he told Marisol later that evening, in the gentle daylight glow of their small living room, she cheered and threw her little arms around his neck, telling him he was the smartest dad in the world. He held her close, his eyes watering as relief washed over him in waves. The next morning he walked into Hawthorne Tech not as the invisible janitor people looked past, but as a respected part of the team. Some employees still gossiped, some still whispered, but most smiled warmly, genuinely. As he settled into his new office, surrounded by papers and glowing screens, he felt something he hadn't felt in years: stability. Maybe even hope, but what stayed with him most deeply was not the promotion itself. It was the lesson woven through the entire experience, that a person's value does not diminish because of their job title, their past, or their hardships. And sometimes, all it takes is one unexpected moment to remind the world of that truth.